Hey friend, it's me Vasco with a quick announcement. We at the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast are organizing this year's Scrum Master Summit. For tickets and details on the summit, check out the URL bit.ly/SM Summit 22. All one word, SMSUMMIT 22. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Denmark is Nielsen. Hey, Nick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vasco. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So Nick completed his education at Aarhus University in Denmark and is currently working in the digital organization at Grundfos, the world's biggest pump manufacturer. And of course, because today everything's got software, we're going to talk about software teams as well. And he views himself as a pragmatic, agile handyman. So Nick, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Yeah, so completely by coincidence. So I have a master's degree in what's called the ICT product development, which is an education at the University of Aarhus, and it's sort of a bastard between classic computer science, so everything from doing programming in BASIC all the way up to high-level programming languages such as Python and JavaScript, Java, sorry. And then the second part of the education is from the School of Architecture. That's everything from 3D modeling, 3D printing, even freehand drawing, and I think it's a great education. But how did I become a Scrum Master? I applied for a job as an IT concept developer at Grundfos, and I did some research on the company before going into the interview. And Grundfos is in this transition where we are starting to become a more digital company, and we're also a very we're a family-owned company, and we have a lot of colleagues here who've been here, and that's what I sort of got interested in. 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50 years. And I asked my potential boss in the interview, so doing this digital transformation with people who have been here for such a long time, that must be really hard from a cultural standpoint. And he's like, yeah, it's actually pretty hard and super interesting. And then we talked about that for like 30 minutes. And then he called me the week after and said, like, you seem to know something about this Scrum and Kanban, and could you be interested in something else than...
And you were also willing to talk about the culture.
Yes. And he called me in for a second interview with our head of the digital transformation office, Marianne. And we decided that maybe I should do something else. And I got this really open role where in the beginning, my job was to look at requirements going across the organization. And then as you could say, our organization matured, I at one point became a Scrum Master. Then I was actually a release train engineer in a safe setup for 2 years. And in December, we made the decision that we're no longer running safe. So now I am a man without a title. So I think officially I'm just a senior consultant.
Wow, that's quite a change. Also for the company, I imagine, because it's not easy to first adopt a whole framework and then throw it away and and basically start from scratch. Well, I do hope you're not going back to the good old project management frameworks, because that would be a bit difficult for the digital team members.
Yeah, you say, I think going away from safe has been a natural evolution. And it's not because we are reverting back or going into nothingness. We are simply adopting multiple, you could say, frameworks such as Scrum, Kanban, parts of safe maybe into our own Grundfos model. So I think that's pretty natural.
Absolutely. And when that happens that way, I think it's also a healthy evolution, as you called it, a pretty natural evolution. Nick, now we turn our attention to the Monday story. And of course, here on the podcast, we have the Monday fail day. And of course, this is because we don't want to really dwell into what's wrong. We want to dwell into the learnings, the experiences, and what we take away with us that apply later on in our career. So tell us that story, Nick, a story of a moment where you, as a Scrum Master, you did your best. But at that time, You still had a lot to learn, as we all do at all times. And of course, things didn't go as you expected. But tell us that story. Start from the beginning, Nick.
Yeah, and actually, just to preface it, I'm glad you put it that way, because I don't like the word failure. Actually, I'm aware that it means you're unsuccessful in achieving your goal, and sometimes you are. But I think agile is just as you say. It's about learning. It's about becoming more resilient and more bendable. But I say my failure story as a Scrum Master is actually failing to make a team a team.
So how did it get started? How did you come into that team to start with?
So I was the Scrum Master in the team, and at some point the team composition changed, and we got two external consultants in, and we also got a colleague in from another Grundfos location, so in a completely different time zone. So all of the sudden, we went from being a co-located team to becoming you could say, multi-site team. And the two external consultants we got in were from India.
So tell me a little bit more about that transition. You didn't say it, but I'm imagining that most of the team members still stayed on. So, right, like the team didn't just completely disband, like there were team members from the team as it was before. And then there was this 3 new team members that joined from other locations. What changed? Like, what were the first things that you started to see that told you that, okay, this is a big change for the team?
Well, you could say you're completely right. The core of the team was still there, and I think it's always interesting when you have someone who a core that stays, and then someone new joins, because then you have to go through Tuckman's phases again, right? But I think the core is resilient to change. So at least what I experienced was not hostility. We were actually quite friendly with each other, but there was an unwillingness to share tasks. So there would be like, these guys will work on these things and the other guys will work on these things.
Okay, so the team kind of accepted the new team members, but also at the same time said, okay, but then we work on different things, right? Like, it's okay, you join the team, but you're working on something and we're working on something else. Kind of maybe even as I hear this, perhaps trying to keep the same dynamics as before without them being very disturbed by the new team members. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, and also I think especially getting in externals, that is almost always temporary, right? So that is, I think it can be a big challenge. How do we fully embed them into the team and start changing the team dynamics, knowing that maybe in a year they will not be here. And I think that's a really interesting challenge as a Scrum Master to work with. Is that possible, or will the core, stay resilient and stay themselves?
And if you had to go back to that story again, kind of relive it, time machine style, what would you do different? Like if you had, the beginning of that team again with the distributed team members, how would you handle that situation these days?
So I think there are two things that I would try. So one is push back on management. We did that initially when they said you'll get two external consultants. We actually tried to say we will accept one internal hire instead. That will be fine. But maybe even pushing harder and maybe saying that then we will not accept any new team members. So that would be the one part, and the second part would be trying to split the core. Actually force them away from each other, well knowing that that could be risky.
What would be your goal with that? Like what do you think would achieve to split the core, as you said?
Trying to distribute the work. So as I said, they were actually pretty good at being friendly with each other, but still keeping the work close to themselves. And I think by trying to split them up, either using for example pair programming or something similar, maybe they would start to realize we can actually share the tasks, all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great reminder that no change in a team is an easy change. Even if it sounds like, oh, most of the team is the same, it will be fine. There are dynamics that are kept. There are dynamics that come in as new. And as you said, also the whole team as a whole, as a system, needs to go through the Tuckman team maturity model phases. I'll put the link on the show notes for those of you who want to know more about those phases. And it's something that we as Scrum Masters need to be very deliberate about, right? Like really work with the team to get them to a new stage, to a stage where the new team members are fully integrated.
And actually find the model is good. It's easy to understand, right? But I think there's a phase in the model that's often forgotten, and that's actually the mourning phase. We actually need maybe to take some time to say goodbye to team members, or say goodbye to the metaphorically the old team, right?
Yeah.
And prepare for something new. And then I think the model is really good to show to the team, and being honest and saying, guys, something has happened. We got some new team members in. We need to go through this again. And I think as a Scrum Master, you have the possibility to accelerate the stages, right? So actually maybe provoking the storming, and also, if you start seeing conflicts, show the team a conflict ladder. Show them, please be careful on where do you go on this ladder, because it's really hard to come down from conflicts again.
Yeah.
And also when you are norming, right, talk about working agreements, talking about it could be common definition of done, some of the things that we expect each other to adhere to, because that will help the norming. So using the model actively, showing it to teams, I think can be great.
Absolutely. And this reminded me of an episode we've had here on the podcast. I'll put the link on the show notes with Heidi Helfand, who wrote the book Reteaming, right? So thinking about teams as a dynamic concept rather than static. So definitely great tips. Thank you for sharing that, Nick.
Of course.
Hey friends, it's Vasco again, now with a bit longer announcement. I'm part of the team that is behind the Global Scrum Master Summit, the conference dedicated to the Scrum Master role. If you're a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master Summit is the place to learn, to share, and of course to meet new friends. We will have lots of live sessions where you can meet and network with other Scrum Masters from the whole globe. So make sure you check it at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. We have several amazing keynotes and 7 tracks that feature people like you and of course thought leaders sharing their insights, their knowledge, and helping you become an awesome Scrum Master. You can check out all of the details of the summit, including the keynotes announced, the track chairs, and much more at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. That's all one word. That's bit.ly/SM SUMMIT and the numeral 22. I'll see you on the conference floor.